Hello and welcome. I hope you're all having a good weekend. I missed Flatbread Friday this week, and because they had pork shoulder on sale at the store, I was going to make a pulled pork pizza, and I didn't get it done. But today, a couple days later, I've got to cook this pork. So we are going to make Instant Pot pulled pork, and then we're going to do something with it, and I'll let you know. Let's do it. We're going to begin by trimming this guy up a little bit, getting rid of some of this fat. I'm going to leave a little on because I'm going to cut this pork into pieces. I think I'm going to cut it up and trim the pieces instead of trying to trim the whole thing. And we have a bone, which I'm going to leave in place for some flavor. It is a bone-in. So let's cut this into some cookable pieces. Come on, meat. About yo big. Here's our pork all ready to go. And now we're gonna make our seasoning and season it. Dry rub. We're gonna start off with some brown sugar. Some salt and pepper. Some smoked paprika. Some garlic powder. Onion powder. And depending on how hot you like your pork, some cayenne pepper. I'm doing just a little bit. We're gonna mix our seasonings. Here's our dry rub, all mixed up. We are now gonna individually season each one of our pork pieces. All the way around. Rub it in. All seasoned up. I've added a couple tablespoons of canola oil to the Instant Pot, and I've pressed the saute button. It says it's on, but it doesn't say it's hot yet. And when it is, we're going in. Okay, the machine says hot. We're gonna go in with this big bone piece first. If I can put one of the other pieces in there, I might be able to fit them all. Looks like I can. That's a good thing. We'll sear these on all sides. Time to turn these pieces over to the next surface. So I'm just going to flip right over. This one too. And then we'll do the ends on those. And when these are nicely browned up and seared, we're going to keep on moving. I'm going to take these smaller pieces out because they're starting to get a little too brown. So transfer them to a plate. And I'm going to give this guy one more flippy. Good. Now, you can see all these brown bits in the bottom of the pot. We're going to scrape those up for some additional flavor when this piece is finished. And now we're going to turn this off. And we're going to add a little splash of chicken stock. With a wooden spoon or something that's scrape up the brown bitsable. And we're going to scrape up all that extra flavor. Now we're going to add the rest of the chicken stock. This is about 1.5 cups total. and some Worcestershire sauce for some extra flavor. Now our meat is going back in. We're going to cover this thing, and these are going to cook for 45 minutes to an hour. Here comes the pieces going back in. I think we'll put you this way, and you this way, you this way, and any juices that have accumulated on the plate are going back in as well. And now I'm going to hit the meat/stew button. We're ready to go. I've set the timer for 45 minutes and we will check these out at that time. And now the cover goes on. Doodly 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 doo. And we'll check it when the timer goes off. The timer has gone off, and now we have to release the pressure because you can't open the lid till the pressure is released. So we're going to turn it off. I think our time is up. Let's check it out. Oh yeah. Doodly doodly doo. And up we go. Set that aside. And let's give this a twist and see how tender it is. Oh yeah, it's coming right off. Here's our pork on our plate, and we're gonna cool that down. And here's our liquid, which we are going to save. I have a saucepan over high heat right now, and we're going to dump our cooking liquid into it. And I would like to reduce it. So we're going to bring it up to a boil and let her go. While the meat cools and the sauce reduces, I want to tell you what we're going to do when all the ingredients are ready. And I have a friend who lives in my neighborhood who bakes bread every week. This week she made me a sourdough bowl. And we're going to make, and it's not going to be a traditional muffaletta, but I'm going to call it that. It's going to be a pulled pork muffaletta, and that'll be a fun thing to have. Our pork has cooled down a bit, and I'm able to touch it and pull it. This bone, just pull right out of there. I like that. And the meat is going to get pulled into our bowl. Here's our pulled pork. It pulled up so easily. It's cooked to perfection. And when our sauce is done, we're going to blend it up. I've turned off the heat, and now you can see it's, you know, sort of a thin gravy-ish consistency, but now we're going to add in some barbecue sauce, which is thick. Let's whisk that together. Nice and thick, smelling delicious. And now it's time to put on our pork. I took a tiny bit of the sauce out to save it for something else we might do with the leftover pulled pork, because this is more than is going to fit in that bowl, that sourdough bowl. And in we go. Mix it up. Mixing the barbecue sauce along with the reduced cooking liquid has resulted in a delicious pulled pork sauce. And here is our pulled pork, ready to go. And now let's continue on to the next step. Because a pulled pork sandwich, or what was going to be my pulled pork pizza, tastes good chopped with coleslaw, We are now going to make some coleslaw dressing. We're going to start with 2/3 to a cup of mayo, about a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, ding dang ding, 2 tablespoons, there's 1, there's 2, and this is granulated sugar. You could also use maple syrup or honey if you wanted to. Some salt and pepper. Tablespoon of white wine vinegar. And a tablespoon of lemon juice. And if you have any poppy seeds in the house, you can use that. I don't have any, so we're going to whisk this together. There's our ingredients, and now we're going to whisk them together to make a nice, smooth, and creamy coleslaw dressing. Here's our smooth and creamy coleslaw dressing, and now we're going to prep our muffaletta. The first thing we're going to do is cut the top off of this sourdough bowl. And we're going to pull some of the bread out of the center. That'll be good. I'm going to transfer this to a baking sheet. I have the oven heating to 375 degrees, and we're going to toast this bread up a little bit, but before we do, we're going to brush it with some roasted garlic oil. Looks like I'm going to have to make some more roasted garlic oil. Okay, we're going to put this in the oven for a few minutes just to toast it up just a little bit. Our toasty sourdough bowl is out of the oven. And now what we're going to do is, and if you don't like cheese on a barbecue pulled pork sandwich, you can skip this part. But I like things cheesy. So we're going to line this with some nice melty cheese. And now we're going to fill it up with our pulled pork. Now we're going to top it with some more cheese. What I'm going to do next is spray a piece of parchment with some nonstick cooking spray and place it over the top so the cheese won't stick to it. We can always add more cheese if it does. And now we're going to cover this pan with foil and put it back in the oven until the cheese is melted and the pork is heated through. I think we'll call this a sourdough pulled pork picnic sandwich instead of muffaletta. Okay, while our bread is baking, we're going to make us a little coleslaw. We don't need a whole lot, and we don't want to put the dressing on all of it because the cabbage will lose its crispness. So we're just going to make just enough to top our picnic sandwich. And now in comes some of our dressing. Let's see if that's enough. I think it is. Here's our coleslaw that's going on top when it's done. Okay, 15 minutes later, we are out of the oven. Toasty, garlicky, cheese is melted. This is hot. It smells so good. And by the way, this is the best pulled pork I have ever made and ever eaten. So now comes our top of coleslaw. Now is when the top goes on. Push into the center of the pan. And here we have our pulled pork picnic sandwich. It's going to be so good. I hope my knives will cut it up as neatly as possible. Let's give it a try. It cut in half pretty easily. We're going to cut it again. Hopefully it'll stay together. It's pretty messy. Looks like a knife and fork sandwich, but it's going to be so delicious. And here we have our barbecue pulled pork picnic sandwich. Now we're going to take a bite. Here's what we look like cut up on a plate. And it's going to be so yummy, yet a little messy, but worth it, worth it. Thank you for joining me while we got to use up our pulled pork that was supposed to be a pizza. And it probably would be easier to eat and a lot less messy if it was a pizza, because here's what we look like. Very messy, very full, and it's going to be very yummy. And let's do it. Let's go in. Like I said, that was the best pulled pork I have ever made or ever eaten. And it's going to be a lot of fun eating this sandwich, even if I have to do it with a knife and fork. But anyway, it was a good idea. It was a fun way to play, and we'll see you again soon.